that we here highly resolve these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
This nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom.
The nation shall have a new birth of freedom.
Senator from Kentucky.
I rise today in opposition to raising the debt ceiling. I rise in particular in opposition to raising the debt ceiling without getting any sort of spending reform or budgetary reform in return. In fact, it will be completely the opposite. We will be raising the debt ceiling in an unlimited fashion. We will be giving President Obama a free pass to borrow as much money as he can borrow in the last year of his office. No limit, no dollar limit. Here you go, President Obama, spend what you want. We do this while also exceeding what are called budget caps. We've been trying to have spending restraint in Washington. It hasn't worked very well, but at least there are some numbers that government is not supposed to exceed. These include spending caps for military spending as well as domestic spending. But ultimately, there was something passed called sequestration, which put caps on both military and domestic spending. And it did slow down the rate of growth of government for a little while. This is the problem with Congress. Congress will occasionally do something in the right direction, and then they take one step forward and two steps back. Now we're doing the same thing again. We're going to add back in, this time, $80 billion, $50 billion in 2016, another $30 billion in 2017. We're doing the opposite of what we should be doing. We should be using the leverage of the debt ceiling, saying, we're not raising it again until you reform your ways. The right's going to get more military money. The left's going to get more welfare money. The secret handshake goes on, and the American public gets stuck with the bill. So often up here, things become partisan, and people just want to point fingers and say, oh, it's that party that did it. They're the ones responsible for the debt. But I want to let you in on a secret. This is a secret that goes on and on and on up here. It is something I call the unholy alliance. It is the unholy alliance between right and left. They both have sacred cows they want to spend money on. So instead of saying, you know what, the debt is a real problem and we both have to conserve in both areas, they both get together secretly and raise the money for their sacred cows. So on the right, we are busting the limits because the right wants more military spending. The left wants more for welfare. The unholy alliance, a secret handshake, and what gets worse? The debt. Now, I think one of the most important things we do is defend the country. If you ask me to prioritize this spending, I would say we got to defend the country above and beyond and before all else. But that doesn't mean we're stronger or safer if we're doing this from bankruptcy court. I think the number one threat to our country, the number one threat to our security is debt, it's this piling on of debt. The number one priority up here shouldn't be trying to scrounge around and find new money to spend. It should be trying to conserve. It should be doing something that some say is radical, but I say is the absolute essence of common sense, and that is we should spend what comes in. When I ran for office in 2010, the debt was an enormous issue, and the debt was $10 trillion. Some of us in the Tea Party were concerned because it had doubled in the last 8 years. It doubled from 5 to 10 under a Republican administration. And many of us were adamant that Republicans needed to do a better job. We had added new entitlement programs. We had added new spending, and the deficit got worse under Republicans. Now we're under a Democrat president, and it's set to double again. This president will add more to the debt, than all of the previous presidents combined. We're in the middle of a filibuster. This filibuster will go on till about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we will find out who the true conservatives in this town are. If you are a conservative, you're going to say, we shouldn't be exceeding the budget caps. If anything, we should be passing more stringent budget caps. It disappoints me greater than I can possibly express that the party that I belong to, that should be the conservative party, doesn't appear to be conservative.
Paid your foolish tax, read the acts, and they just won't do. We want to make it clear we believe this much is true.
Blanket and the hat. I have to say that I'm very glad that you also have a blanket for Michelle so she doesn't steal mine.
And John, before we get to that, I wanted to bring our viewers up to date on a story that is breaking right now that I just learned about within the last 15 or 20 minutes.
It was 10 days ago that Access Hollywood released that tape. I'm wondering, when you first saw it, when you first heard it, what did you think?
I said to my husband that, you know, the language is inappropriate. It's not acceptable. And I was surprised because that is not the man that I know. And as you can see from the tape, the cameras were not on. It was only a mic. And I wonder if they even knew that the mic was on, because they were kind of a boy talk, and he was lead on, like egg on, from the host to say dirty and bad stuff.
You feel the host, Billy Bush, was sort of egging him on?
Yes, yes.
Is that language you had heard him use before?
No, no, that's why I was surprised, because I said, like, I don't know that person that would talk that way. And that he would.
She has no natural talent to be president.
She's very talented, and she has a husband that I also like very much.
Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State in the history of the United States.
Hillary Clinton, how did she do as Secretary of State? Probably above and beyond everybody else.
Let's say Hillary is president.
Hillary Clinton, I think, is a terrific woman. I think she really works hard, and I think she does a good job. And I like
would say that kind of stuff in private. I heard many different stuff, boys talk. The boys, that the way they talk when they grow up and they want to sometimes show each other, oh, this and that, and talking about the girls. But yeah, I was surprised, of course.
Listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to capture going to bomb the shit out of them.
We'll beat the shit out of them.
Political bullshit.
You're not going to raise that fucking price. You understand?
Screaming across the waves, you can't hear a sound.
I'm the only one in the state.
No fair trials, no train, no liberties, no teeth. Colonized America, we won't stand for tyranny.
I'm very pro-choice.
And it's too late to apologize. It's too late. Over happiness, it's too late to apologize. It's too late. I said it's too late to apologize. It's too late.
Who pays for it? The government's going to pay for it, but we're going to save so much money on the other side.
Halfway across the globe and we're standing on